Hi everybody, what's up? Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to episode number 22 of Tom's Take, where we have Cheryl Vaughan from our team here, who's our closing manager, closing coordinator, all things settlement. That's what Cheryl handles. So before we get into the topic of who's really needed at closing and what makes sense, why don't you give us a little background about your experience, Cheryl?
Well, I started out in mortgage banking, running a closing department, and then several years as a title agent in Pennsylvania. So I've conducted thousands of closings, and
so thousands of closings, right? So that's a lot of experience. So what we've increasingly seen happen here is these settlements can be a little bit of a long process, and it's really not necessary that all the parties are there. So who do you think really needs to be there when it comes down to buyers and sellers? What's your take on that?
Well, the buyers, for the most part, need to be there. For the most part, buyers do have mortgage financing, so there's a lot of documents, a lot that goes on there. So it's really more of like a buyer's show, I think, than a seller's. The sellers can take care of things in advance, and that just makes it a lot easier.
So when we say take care of things in advance, think about what a seller has to do a lot of times. There's people that buy and sell on the same day. They might be moving out of state. So what are some of the reasons why it might be a good idea for the sellers not to attend? And the reason I'm asking this is that real estate, there's this mindset that just because things have always been done that way, that's the way they should be done. And we found this really isn't the case. So why don't you go a little deeper with all your experience?
Well, there's, like I had said, a lot of times buyers have financing, and there's a lot of things that can go on with the lender as far as their funding procedures. The buyers have to sign an extensive amount of documents. Those documents often have to be scanned, approved, waiting around for a wire. For the handful of documents that the seller has to sign, it's really not necessary for them to waste their time just sitting there at the settlement table for what could be hours at times.
Yeah, I mean, there's been settlements I've been at, I'm sure you've been at them, where you're literally there 5, 6, 7 hours, and the seller's looking at us saying, well, I signed everything, can I go now, and can you send me the check? So what we found is that it can be a waste of time for sellers. And why don't you talk about a little bit about your role now and how you make this potential time waster really efficient for them, and what you do for our team, because I know it's a little different than what most people do.
Well, when we have situations where, let's say the seller is going to a purchase transaction that same day, if they can sign everything in advance, what will happen is I'll get a deed package and go over the documents with them. They'll get them signed, notarized, and then also review the settlement sheet in advance. They can go and worry more about their walkthrough and their purchase and things that they have to do after the fact. I can just go to settlement on their behalf. Anything comes up, we'll handle it. They don't have to worry about it, and make arrangements to have those funds wired so it's immediately available for their next closing. And it just takes a lot of stress, I think, out of the situation for them.
Well, and housing transactions, they're one of the top 3, 5 most stressful things people go through. So if we can eliminate some of that stress and make it easier, that's kind of the intention here. So so you've done thousands of closings. I mean, yeah, this is going to be a binary yes or no question. Is it really necessary for the seller to be there?
Absolutely not. So
you heard it here, and I don't care what anyone else says. Cheryl has done close to 4,000 settlements that she's been involved with. We're doing an extensive amount as well, and the reality is sellers don't need to be there. So when you have a team that's helping you, Cheryl can handle all that stuff for you, and you don't have to go, and it saves you a lot of time. And these transactions aren't always friendly. I mean, I'm sure there's been times where the seller doesn't even want to see the buyer. Am I right?
Oh, there can be some tension, and if there's been some tension throughout the process, it's just better off that everybody just does their own thing.
Well, why put yourself in that position?
Exactly.
I mean, unfortunately, these transactions aren't always friendly. So what I heard was it can make it easier to buy and sell on the same day. It's going to save time. Other people's problems, like the wire not coming in, maybe a settlement beforehand that's delaying the settlement for the property in question, all those things that can cause a delay aren't your problem when you don't go to closing.
Correct.
So it seems like a pretty simple answer here. I mean, logic should win over the real estate industry's idea of just because it's always been done this way, we should continue to do it. So you heard it here first. Sellers don't need to go to closing, and when you have a professional like Cheryl to handle it, you're going to be in great hands.
Great.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Good stuff here. We'll talk to you next week. If you have any questions or you want to see us cover something, hit us up in the comments below. ping us on social. And Cheryl, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.